Pete Liljeberg and Janet Gomez, both with the Jubilee of Churches here in the community, and we will be presenting today to explain how all the churches are coming together to serve our community. So are you ready to start with that now, or? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Am I okay seated or do you want me to stand?
I mean, I think you're okay seated. We don't have a formal camera. We can,
Okay.
Owl will follow you when you speak.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for welcoming Janet and I both here. And Janet and I are both with Apostles Lutheran, which is like in the back parking lot of this building. And for allowing us to speak with you about Jubilee churches, which begs the question, why is a church group coming to speak to this group? And there are two main reasons, I think, from my standpoint. Number one is I would expect that some of the clients and people that you interact with have had dealings with Jubilee churches, and this will give you a kind of an understanding of who we are, what we do, and how we're interacting with the people that you interact with. And the second reason, it's less altruistic, is that my suspicion is that many people in this group probably are members of faith-based organizations within the Gloucester area. And I'm hoping that some of you who are, if your church is not currently involved in Gloucester with Jubilee, after this presentation, you'll go home and talk to your home church and say, hey, maybe we should investigate this more and become part of that. So that's kind of my rationale for saying, yes, I'd like to come and speak with you guys. So what are the Jubilee churches of Gloucester? We are a consortium of 17 churches within Gloucester County. And these are churches, and it's kind of a unique situation in terms of the churches. They are from every area of the county, every different denominations, different economic areas, and different races, which is kind of unusual in our area, to be honest with you. And the goal of Jubilee churches from the beginning is to help people, the needs of people in our community, which means, among other things, that we limit our catchment area to Gloucester County because that's where our churches are. And we also found that when we tried to expand beyond that, we just got overwhelmed, and we need to be able to handle a group that we feel we can actually serve. And our goal is to prevent homelessness. That's our specific goal. Once somebody is without a home, okay, there are other guests. We have Michelle from Guest Shelter. We have other organizations in our county which step forward and help those people. Our goal is to keep people who are in their home, to prevent homelessness, and to help those who fall through the cracks. Because again, there's a big middle ground between people who really have no financial means and people who have a lot of financial needs. There's a lot of people who are in the middle and fall through the cracks, and that's our goal, is to help those people. So why did we decide to do this as a group of churches? Well, as members of the faith community, we have some biblical precedents to ask us to do that. Feed my sheep. When Jesus asked the disciples, do you love me? And they said, yes. And he said, well, then feed my sheep. The Good Samaritan. There's just tons of biblical mandates that we should help our neighbors, help those around us. But also, as members of the Gloucester community as a whole, decreasing homelessness, it improves the health and improves the vibrancy of this great place that we live. And third, we're all taxpayers. Personally, not our church, and it's to our advantage. Anybody have a guess what the average cost to keep a family at risk of homelessness, what the cost to keep them in their home is? No, $700. That's the average cost to keep somebody in their home. That's who's at risk. What's the average cost of housing a homeless family for a year? $28,000. So you have a $700 investment that could potentially save the taxpayers of this county $28,000, which obviously is to all of our advantages, which is one of the reasons we want to do this. Okay, so within the churches, and I'm sure here, people are saying, well, we already help people in our community. That's what we do. So why should we join Jubilee churches? And I'd like to give two scenarios which kind of illustrate this point. All right. And this is from the standpoint of somebody in a church, either serving as a minister or just working there. So it's Tuesday afternoon, and you're either finishing up in off hours or you're finishing up doing something, setting the altar up or whatever you're doing there. And all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. And you open the front door and there's kind of a disheveled gentleman standing there. And he tells you that he's a vet and that's a veteran. And he can't find work and he needs $350 to pay his Dominion power bill or he's going to be evicted from his home. And you look at him and what questions come to mind? Is this story real? Or is this guy just scamming me? Has he already been to 3 churches down the road and got money from them? And I'm the 4th. If I give him any money from the drawer, how do I know that he's going to use it for Dominion power and he's not going to go out and do something else with that money? Does he qualify for help from the VA? Did he ask them if they could help him? Is this a recurrent problem? Or is this the first time he's ever needed help? That's one scenario. And I've dealt with that kind of a scenario at Apostles Loop. Another scenario. There's a person in your congregation who introduces you to a single mom with 2 small children. And she's behind on her rent and she needs $1,800 to pay her back rent or she and her family will also be evicted. Now, in this case, you know certainly that this is legitimate, that you know the woman and it's a legitimate problem, but you're a small congregation. You don't happen to have $1,800 in your petty cash fund to give to this woman in order to help her and keep her family out of homelessness. How can you possibly help? Well, let me explain to you a little bit about how the process works, and then you'll kind of get an idea for it, okay? And obviously, I'm going to give this a brief presentation. If people have more questions or interest, we have a sign up. We also have more written information about how this works. So you're presented with a financial need from someone in your community. And these are sort of our guidelines for the Jubilee churches. If the request is for less than $200, you make your own decision. If you want to give them the $200, that's great. If you don't have to, but that Jubilee does not get involved. We only get involved with requests over $200. If the request is for over $200, you inform the person at that point that all these requests are being funded by this consortium of Jubilee churches, and it's being coordinated through the guest shelter. You then share with the client an information sheet telling them exactly that, and that this group of churches is concerned about their physical as well as their spiritual needs, and that we are seeking to honor God by helping the neighbors in need. At that point, if this is something that your church wants to do, you can offer prayer, you can offer spiritual support, you can invite them to your church. That's fine. And that's a good thing to do, but it's not required for help from Jubilee. Okay. And if the client understands that and accepts that, then we move forward and we tell them they need to contact the guest shelter, and that's important. That's on them. They actually have to call the guest shelter and they still say the situation that they're going to be involved with Jubilee churches. And that's when they contact the guest shelter and speak to Tessa at the guest shelter, who is a trained social worker. And what they will do at that point is they will interview the person. There are actually countywide or statewide records of people who have asked for help other places. Okay. And they basically vet the client and make sure that their need is real. Make sure that they're not people who are, keep going to various counties and asking people. They also make sure that there are no other sources of funding for this person. And they also offer them financial counseling. So hopefully they're not in this position repeatedly. And at that point, if the people at the guest shelter feel that this is valid, they put it back to the members of the Jubilee churches. And there are 3 ways that this can be funded. If a church receives a request for money and they feel they can handle the whole cost of it, okay, then what they do is they email the guest shelter and let them know that once the client is vetted and say yes, it's real, then that church will send the money to the guest shelter under the Jubilee churches, and the guest shelter will in turn pay not the person, but whoever it is that person owes money to, Dominion Power, their landlord, whatever it is. Okay. If If it's beyond what, let me go back. Some churches then, and apostles among them, ought to give a certain amount every month to guest shelter. And we try to maintain about a $5,000 fund within the guest shelter. And in that case, if somebody comes in and there is their need is deemed valid, the Tessa guest shelter has the authority then simply to use that $5,000 and cover that cost. Okay. And after she does that, then churches will continue to refund that amount of money. All right. If that fund balance drops or there's not enough money for the request, Tessa then lets the group know, and churches can basically all pitch in to help. Abington will say, well, we can cover 500 of that. Apostles say, well, we'll cover 200, and it all gets added together, and then hopefully you make the total amount that that person needs. And as I said, then that is paid not to the person, but it's paid to whomever that person owes. So that's more or less how the system works. Okay. And so that's kind of the idea of Jubilee. And the other question people oftentimes ask is, well, why are you going through the guest shelter? Why are you involving them and Tessa? And there are a few very good reasons for that. First of all, they have trained social workers. Okay, I don't know about your church. My church does not have trained social workers, and they are able to, accurately vet the clients to make sure that the requests are valid, and that our money is actually going to somebody who truly needs that money. Okay? And we have over the past couple of years, people get denied. Tessa writes back and says, I've done some breaches into this. Their claim, what they say they need, just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Or, I've looked at the list and this is the 13th time they've come to various groups asking for money. I don't really think that helping them at this point is really the best use of our funds, that kind of thing. So people do get denied. Second of all, there are a lot of sources of revenue that people don't realize that they have. And we've experienced that too. Someone comes in, they're asking for money, and we find out, or Tessa finds out, that they actually qualify for VA benefits. And so they're asking for money where actually the VA would be able to fund whatever it is they need, durable medical equipment or something else like this to help them out. And third, they make our life easier. Okay, Guest does the paperwork. They send the funds directly to Dominion or the landlords. They remain in contact with the person, making sure that that money has gone and that person is doing well with that. And they have the facilities to work with the client to prevent similar needs in the future. Like I mentioned, through the cooperative extension, we offer financial counseling classes to people to help them make a budget, etc. And one of our rules is the first time that you come in and ask money for us for a need, that's absolutely, if you're vetted, we will meet that need. The second time you come in and ask for money for the same reason, okay, well, we will meet that need probably, but that will be mandated that you go through the financial counseling class to try to help people learn how to manage their money so this is not a recurring cycle. And the last reason why it's helpful for us to go through guests is it brings in more money to our community. And let me explain how that works. When we send money to guests, it basically goes to a pass-through account. We send a check for $500. They send a check out for $500. So it passes through their accounts. But in doing so, that actually counts as further money that the guest is granting in the community, which in turn allows guests to get more grant money from the federal government, from the state, because it makes them a bigger organization, which means more money into our community, which means we can help more people as a group. So why Jubilee? We're able to serve more people. There's less misuse of our funds. It's less work for overburdened and small churches. It's more money for our community, and it's an opportunity to work and to worship together. And I will say that part of the Jubilee churches is that we have an ecumenical worship service once a year, and it just gets people from different faith backgrounds in our community sitting in a room talking about a common problem. That's a wonderful thing. And that's the story. And Janet actually has a couple of stories that she wants to tell you to give you some idea of a personal idea of what
All right,
happens.
this was from November. We assisted a family facing a sudden financial hardship. The client, who lives with serious autoimmune disorders and has a history of cancer, has struggled to care for herself physically. Her husband left his full-time job to become her caregiver and now drives for Uber when he can. When their only vehicle broke down, even that limited income stopped temporarily. Although they were able to catch up on October's rent and fees once the car was repaired, they fell behind for November and received a 5-day pay or quit notice. Thanks to the support of our partnering churches, we were able to step in during this difficult moment. This was the first time the family had ever asked for help, and they expressed deep gratitude for the compassion shown them. So that was an example of in November. And every month we send out a story. Tessa comes up, tells us a story every month, and we share that with the Jubilee churches. And I did want to say that from January to October of this year, Jubilee churches has assisted 55 households for over $25,000. So that's a lot of people kept in their homes.
Any questions? Yeah.
Two questions. First question is, and Reggie and Molly, you guys might be able to help me out on this. You are not listed, I was just looking at it, in the GRC resource manual. Okay, is that going to fall under the banner of the guest house 100%, or should that be listed as a separate?
Well, I guess that's your call. Right now it is listed under guest.
I'm sorry.
Right now it is, it's listed under guest, but I guess it's Pete's call as to whether or not
I mean,
it remains that way.
it's quite obvious the synergies are there and that need to be broadcast. Okay, one way or the other. Second is next door Millwood. I'm not sure if anybody here participates or looks at that. But you see a lot of requests. People are out of money. They need money for this, they need money for that. And some of them are legit, a few, probably most of them aren't. Do you reach out to folks like that? Or are they supposed to reach out to you?
This is basically, they reach out to us, I think would be the best way to put it. Okay. This is a resource for, for churches who are trying to manage the people who come to them. Okay. We are not sort of actively reaching out to anybody in the community saying, if you need money, show up at Guest and say you want Jubilee funds. Because I think it would totally overwhelm, and we are a faith-based group. And so, part of it is wanting to have that one-on-one contact with people, at our door in our church, and to be able to offer them more than just a check. To be able to offer them some spiritual, gifts as well. Yeah.
How did you get the name Jubilee Churches?
Wasn't that Scott Parnell?
Yeah,
The former
former Episcopal priest at Ware. I will say this was his brainstorm.
Yeah.
And he just thinking about it, he thought this would be a good thing, and he came up with actually.
He just came up with, he had to have some an emblem for something.
Yeah, he was applying for something, and someone said, well, we can't do that unless you're a real organization with an emblem. And he thought about it, and he goes, Jubilee's a cool name. And he went online and pulled up this, and he pasted it at the top of the paper, and they said, oh, good, now you're official. So it was rather random.
But the concept of Jubilee is very biblical. The Jubilee where you, in the Old Testament, where they give the debts over every, 50 years or whatever.
25 years.
Yeah, they forgive the debt. So that's kind of like where the Jubilee. Anyway.
Any other questions? And usually people have questions about, because we bring up the guest shelter. People have questions about the guest shelter, which is why I usually bring Janet. Now we have to there too. So,
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I will say too, that Jubilee does help fund Tessa. We paid part of Tessa's salaries for the work that because she does a lot of work for Jubilee with the vetting of the health clients and working with all of the folks. So we do help pay for her salaries.
Ma'am, I just in the beginning, and I'm sorry I wasn't here. How does someone, does someone just call one of the churches? How does someone reach out to you all to get help?
They call the church.
They call the
They-
church,
they- yeah,
okay,
yeah,
and that
they-
starts the process. And then what happens next? Like, do you all send them to guests to?
Yeah, and we have a paper for you, yeah, but basically what happens if they come to the church, then you talk with them, you fill out actually intake form with them, but then they have to call guests and speak with guests, and then you email that intake form to guests, and that's how those two, get connected.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good morning. This is Jean up here on the screen. Are you active just in Gloucester or is it Gloucester, Matthews, Middlesex?
Right now, it's just Gloucester.
Just Gloucester.
And again, what happened when we first started, in all of your work, if there's money out there, it's like fresh meat. And we were getting calls from Richmond, Hampton, everybody else saying, oh, we've got a person, and we just had to say, whoa, stop. We can't help all of Eastern Virginia's financial problems. So since all the churches in the current Jubilee group are within Gloucester, we say that's our boundaries. We're not, we're starting to have some clergy from from Matthews and from Middlesex coming. And at some point, that would be an option if enough churches in that area decided that they wanted to join us.
We've actually made offers. We made offers to churches in Williamsburg. We will actually go and make presentations to churches in Matthews, Middlesex. We actually were trying to get Middlesex started, but we would be more than willing to come and share our information so that those counties could actually come up, start their own Jubilee churches. So we're more than willing to do that. So.
I've done a lot of things with the WOW Church down there in Newport News. They've come out to the farm, and I've done a lot of their. I think this is right up their alley. If you reach out to them, they're in Newport News, the World Outreach World Center. I think everybody calls them the WOW Church. I know they'd get involved.
They're on 70 Boulevard, I have Living Water Church at Dutton, and we're a member of the same denomination as well. So,
Living Waters in Middlesex?
Matthews, it's at the corner of 3 and 198.
Yeah, drive by it every day.
Yeah.
And we serve a lot of foster people, so.
Mhm.
Any other questions? That's wonderful. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Bob, was your question about how can we help you guys, like they're
Yes.
listing in that? So they are under guests, and you all have a wonderful, do y'all still make the cardboard list that was like a really nice flyer that had?
That was Scott's, that was kind of Scott's, brainchild. I think someone it needed to be updated. We're not really in control of that, so.
No, well, I knew when he left, there wasn't really a plan for how it was gonna get updated, but it is a very similar directory to our How Can We Help You guide. If the Jubilee does not have a way to redo that or update it, I mean, I don't see
There's a
why.
likelihood it's still available.
What?
So there. It's likelihood it's still available.
Yeah. But if it couldn't be updated, I mean, we would
I'm
love
saying
to
I can
partner.
contact it. I know
Right.
them earlier, so I can see if they.
Yeah. No, that's great. If you can find out though, but we can also just ask Quentin Shepherd
To do.
and his team to add a line for that, unless you prefer. I mean, we could put a note for getting Jubilee churches and just direct it in fine print to guests, but at least making people that are aware.
We have to talk to this.
It's just they're so under the radar, you would think with everything that I can do, get involved out there in Hampton Road, that I would have heard of these guys. I had not.
Mhm.
And that's why I said something about you guys need to publish this, Independent, in my opinion, independent of guests, with merging into organizations. They just don't want to do that. I mean.
Well, I mean, we, again, 17 churches, 17 small churches, our financial, we're limited. If anything, we're not looking necessarily, I mean, we want to help the people that need help. But if we're looking to grow, we're looking to grow with more churches.
Sure.
I just think you need to get out.
Yeah.
17 churches, that's power.
It is.
It is.
Okay, that's power. And you guys could be out there, not only promoting come see us, yeah, we want your business, you know, we want to give you money. I don't mean that way at all. I just let the community know. Like I said, under the radar, I've never heard of you guys. Guest house, yeah, I'm quite familiar with guest house.
Right.
I think it's been deliberate. I think, the Reverend Ed Walker is our co-convener, and he took over, from Pastor Scott. And, so we've been doing is, and we have a mailing going out here in the next couple of weeks to every church in Gloucester. It's gonna we finally got our information together. He's written a letter from, you know, he's the pastor at Bellamy. And I think it's, we don't want to become, you know, a nonprofit. We're a very simple organization. We want things to be very simple. And, I think we want to work through the churches. I think that's the biggest thing. I think,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's his kind of mindset, you know, he's just.
I understand.
Yeah, so, anyway.
And from a church perspective, I'll just tell you, and I'm not the church secretary, but the church secretary receives all of our church phone calls on her personal cell phone when we're together nonstop. And I can't tell you the number of calls when we're out during the day that she gets from community members that are looking for money. They're looking for, and so the first thing we offer them is food from our food pantry. And if they automatically decline that and are not interested in that, that kind of sets the tone for the conversation a bit, because if you don't need food, if it's because you have enough SNAP benefits, that's one thing. But if you're just looking for us to write a check to Dominion Power for you, that's not, we don't personally have resources in our building for that. And so, if we listed, I think if they advertise the churches,
Are you in Matthews or Gloucester?
the church is on the Matthews Gloucester
Okay.
line. And so we serve Matthews, Gloucester, and Middlesex. We have people, and well, we have people as far as Kilmarnock and the Northern Neck, so, but
If you're interested in, you know, starting a Jubilee church in Matthews, we'd be more than willing to, you know, we both live 5 minutes away from you, so.
I'll be glad to talk to you all. I live in Gloucester.
We'd be happy to come and speak with
Absolutely.
your congregation or
Yeah.
whether it's a
I'll
council.
connect you with our local missions person, and she may be interested. We have cooperated in the past with No Walls, which was a community group of churches, and that kind of disbanded and fell apart. So I would be interested in seeing it happen again. It's personally not in my wheelhouse to coordinate that, but I'll connect you with our local missions person who could do that.
Absolutely.
An interesting statistic, which I don't know, is how many people do we refer to call guests who don't call? Because that would be, people who basically, know they're not going to be vetted, and they're just hoping that, that somebody will pull out some,
I can
cash.
tell you that as of the end of October, we had 100 referrals and only 55 that we helped. So there were a number of those that Tessa had deemed were not, not good candidates.
Right.
But there are probably at least half of those probably just
Who realized right at the start, well, that's not good. This is a dry hole. Yeah.
No, and I think also the general public are often referred to churches to go ask their church for assistance, so I think that's part of the reason also. Thank you, sir. So, I think that's great information and so powerful, and I'm impressed with the whole intake process and how organized that is. Another opportunity that you might be interested in is emergency management. Jane Winter and Leslie Clower, they have the faith-based
I'm
leaders.
going to that next week.
You are? Good.
But
Okay.
the reason being,
Good.
I need to find out, I had emailed Jane, I know Jane. Anyway, about the list of churches in the
Sure.
area, so I can go ahead and get these mailings done. So I'm gonna go to that meeting next week and hopefully get that information. But I will say too, we meet every other month. Anyone's welcome to come to the meetings. We meet this coming.
Come Thursday.
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Wednesday.
9:30, and we're meeting
Where?
Where?
Exactly, right.
In their fellowship hall.
And anyone's welcome to come and hear us. You'll meet Pastor Ed, and and the Christian Unity Service is coming up, and that'll be in the Gazette, but it's Thursday, January 22nd at Newington Baptist, 7:00. So.
And last year we had how many people?
Over 120 people.
100 people from all different denominations, Gloucester coming worshiping together. Fairly awesome.
I will say one other thing that couple other things that we do as Jubilee churches, we provide lunches for the guest shelter every week, 3 days a week. We provide hot lunches for the clients. We provide supplies, guest tells us, that what they need and stuff, so the churches do that. And we have a Jubilee church volunteer coordinator at each Jubilee church. So when I send out the information, then they take it and send it, to their congregation and stuff. So it's just, so we're doing.
It's very organized.
You guys are really under the radar. I mean, I'm impressed, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, that's great information to get out.
I will say for his perspective, like. From a donation, or donations all sent to guests, I missed that part too, I apologize. So are all donations sent to guests, or they sent like from the churches to guests? How does that work?
The donations.
The donations are sent to, they're sent, the church will send a check to, yes. Yeah, and the important thing on that is if you send it to Jess, in a memo, you need to say for the Jubilee Fund, or more specifically for Mr. John Smith. Requests, blah, 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 blah. Because if you just send it to guests, they'll take your check. They'll take your check. But it wouldn't necessarily go to the Jubilee Fund.
But it goes to Jubilee funds and that will cover anybody that applies, right? It
It's-
doesn't have to be. for-
Right, yeah, we maintain a $5,000 account, if you will, and Guest is free to draw on that to cover needs, as long as we maintain some kind of a balance there.
Beth, I know you see the story here. I know you do.
I was gonna ask
Who
you.
took Powder Bass's place over there at the Gazette, do you know? The photojournalist that left? Okay.
Would you all, would you be willing to come to the meeting next Wednesday and talk to Pastor
I was
Ed?
just looking, I would love to, but unfortunately, I've got a neurology appointment and a cardio appointment.
Okay,
on the
okay.
Same day. I
Okay.
apologize.
Yeah,
The concept of the total population of homeless that we have here and the different
Oh.
accounts.
Shell.
I'm gonna pass that three people.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's actually, it's a little complex because homelessness in a rural community looks different than it does in other communities. So we have people who are living in, for instance, I found out about a family that was living in a local trailer park that's closed for this season. And so now they're just in a trailer with no utilities, so we would consider them homeless at this point. Although I'm not entirely sure if they would, but we also have people who live in sheds or those sorts of things, whereas they're not all in a camp in a sense. So right now, we're keeping tabs on probably about 20 people that are in the immediate Gloucester area. And we just started winter shelter, so
You have an ideal population back behind TJ and the house.
the number of people, no. I'm not sure that, so we try not to tell people where people are at or how many people are in certain locations, just to protect their privacy. So if there's a specific question you have later, maybe we can talk about it offline.
Well, the reason I bring it up is on Thursday night, obviously you may have heard about the public hearing. And there's a proposed development there of 413 units. And it's most likely going to disperse that encampment. That encampment is actually well known because local churches are donating to the people at the and during COVID, we removed about 22 of them and guests helped us give them the occupation over at the Hampton Inn, and then they were moved to the Time Warner Bus. So I've heard that the numbers have grown, more like 50 back there. Considering back when we call it the airport, it used to be the old airport. So I was just curious about as far as where those people are.
Yeah, with their move.
Yeah, they're gonna be.
They're located, there are other locations, there are several standard locations, and there are not 50 people.
Like, the purpose, right? We're doing that. You don't know, I'm gonna check the library.
You can share the hearing details and we'll put it in the minutes, so anybody. So. Did y'all have any other questions?
Bravo.
Thank you.